Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to our very first VE Global Hangout, where we hope that you'll be able to learn some more about VE Global and our volunteer opportunities here in Santiago, Chile. My name is Josh Piltz. I'm the Executive Director of VE. And here with me is Clem Bouchereau, who is our Program Director. Welcome, Clem.
Thank you.
We have about an hour where we're planning on just having a conversation, Clem, and hopefully a former volunteer of ours named Sandra, and anyone else who would like to join. We have provided links on the Hangout on Air page that you could join in to participate in the Hangout if you have questions. And there are also opportunities for you to ask questions. I'm looking here at our Q&A kind of area from the Hangout page. And if you have any questions, just post those there, and we will try and answer those for you as well. As I try and figure out where Sandra is, I'm going to ask Clem to maybe tell us a little bit more about herself and her experience with VE. We're really lucky to have Clem with us as a former volunteer who is now our program director. And Clem, maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about your experience with VE here in Chile.
Yes, sure. So hi everyone and welcome to our information session. So I was a volunteer back in the day. It was 5 years ago almost. I was part of the January class out of 7 volunteers, and I was also an intern, which means that I was working in the office with Josh, who was already the executive director, and the old ex-program director, Mariah. It was a really good compromise for me because it was half time in the office, so that I could learn more about how to run an NGO, international NGO such as VE Global, and half of the time with the children in a residential home. I was working with girls age from 5 years old to 22, and I stayed 6 months working with them, working in the office, and I really enjoyed it. So I kept in touch with Josh and Mariah at the time, and then I came back 2 years after that, so that I could do an internship in another organization, but still be involved in VE's program, meeting volunteers, helping with the training, and just going to social events. And it was I was really glad when I saw that there was a job available here at VE. That was now a year and a half ago, where Mariah decided to go back to the United States and study. So yeah, she wanted to study, and I applied for that job, and I'm now very happy working as the program director here at VE. I love that because I can also go to different partner organizations. That's the places where we send the volunteers to work with with children. Sorry. And so I get to work with the children, work closely with the volunteers, and run the program from the office here with Josh.
Great. And you were here as a volunteer
in 2011.
Great. And we have just been joined by Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
Is one of our recent former volunteers, una antigua, as we call our former volunteers. Welcome, Sandra. No nos escucha de nuevo.
No te escuchamos.
Sandra can't really hear us, so we're going to try and work that out. We think we'll be able to get that figured out. But in the meantime, Clem, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the role that the volunteers have in the partner organizations where we work. So VE works with a lot of local organizations here in Santiago, and our volunteers play a special role during their time as a volunteer. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, sure. So our volunteers serve as role models. So what does it mean? It means that like they're accompanying the children in their residential homes or community center where we work in their like daily routine in their life. So those children live there and they live with many other children. And usually what happens is that like the staff of those places is really limited and they can't like separate themselves and like to be the mother of like each child. So what happens is that we provide the volunteers to be like present and consistent with the children every day, to do different activities, to just like talk and have a normal conversation about their day, to go with them to the doctor's appointment, the dentist appointment. So they're very important. They're role models because like those children are coming from like very vulnerable context where they were lacking of role models. And we believe that our volunteers have the experience of knowing like values that they've received from their like parents, things that they've learned like without their like experience all around the world, for example. And being in contact with the children is like showing that like there are opportunities out there, and they are like very like valued. Like for example, the volunteers are encouraged to use positive reinforcement every day with the children, so that like to like reinforce their self-esteem and like show them that they can get out of this context.
Great. So it sounds like the volunteers spend a lot of time working directly with the kids and the opportunities that they have with the other people that work at the placements.
Yeah.
What's the relationship with the staff in the organizations?
So the idea is that the volunteers become part of the staff. They're called equipo técnico, like technical staff or team. Mm-hmm. So that like they communicate together to make sure that like the roles are not like make sure to have like space for the TIs, like the people who work there and the volunteers, and that they complement each other. So it is great when the volunteers get like adjust really quickly, because then they feel like that they belong to that community, and they have fun.
Great. And Sandra, can you hear us now?
Sí, te escucho bien.
Perfecto. Good. So we'd like to introduce everyone to Sandra, who is a former VE volunteer who finished up with us just a couple of months ago and hails from Puerto Rico. So we're going to do a little bit of Spanish-English translation. Obviously, we hope that many of the people who are interested have a basic level of Spanish. We do accept volunteers with an intermediate level of Spanish, or at least a commitment to make sure that before they come, they take the time to really focus on learning Spanish to get to that level. But Sandra is a native Spanish speaker, so we want to take the opportunity to be able to speak with her in Spanish. And I think in terms of our conversation, Clem and Sandra can kind of have a question and answer, and I'll then function a little bit as a translator into English a little bit. So, bienvenida Sandra, gracias por acompañarnos. And Clem, maybe you can talk with Sandra a little bit about her experience as a VE volunteer.
Sí, bueno, acabo de decir un poco sobre el rol del voluntario en el hogar, en la organización, pero tú nos puedes como contar un poco de tu día o semana en el hogar con los niños con quienes trabajaste acá.
Sí, yo tuve la oportunidad de trabajar en Refugio de Misericordia. Encuentro esa oportunidad como un reto y como un acto de confianza de BE, porque entiendo que son las niñas con mayor edad dentro de la población que sirve BE. De lunes a jueves estábamos trabajando en el hogar entre un horario de 12 del mediodía a 6 de la tarde, básicamente, quizás un poquito más. Y nuestra labor allí consistía en llevar un modelo adulto, ¿verdad? A estas chicas que son adolescentes embarazadas o madres adolescentes, y nosotros trabajábamos con la parte académica, con una colaboración en las tareas escolares, pero en el tiempo del verano, su tiempo que están fuera del colegio, trabajábamos con talleres y con... Es que hay un ruido que estoy hablando como sola, porque hay un ruido que no puedo escuchar. En resumidas cuentas, le iba diciendo que hacíamos talleres, ya fuera de cocina, de costura, manualidades, áreas que fueran funcionales para ellas y para sus bebés. El trabajo es de lunes a jueves, pero en algunas ocasiones los fines de semana habían actividades que son propias de BE y que la acompañamos a ella y a sus bebés, como la liga de deporte y el carnaval de arte también para eso.
Gracias, Sandra.
Great. So just to kind of summarize a little bit of what Sandra shared about her experience, Sandra worked with one of our partner organizations called Refugio de la Misericordia. And she worked there with a group of young adolescent mothers who range in age from about 12 to 17 or 18 years old. And Sandra's main work with the girls was to really be a positive role model for them, and in doing so had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with them working in different kind of workshop settings. Maybe Sandra can talk a little bit more to us about some of the different workshops and things like that that she had the opportunity to do with the girls, and what that meant for them, and how that worked. Her schedule was more or less from Monday through Thursday at the Hogar from about noon, I think, to 5 or 6, as she said. So it was really an opportunity to spend time every day with them and work with them, and sometimes with the babies as well. And Clem, I guess just as like a side note, like tell us a little bit about some of the other organizations where we work. Refugio is a children's home for teen mothers.
Yes.
But not all of the places we work are like that. What are some of the other placements that volunteers have?
So I can talk about my the placement where I did my volunteering 5 years ago. It's called San Francisco de Gis, and so as I said earlier, it's only girls from age 4 now to 17, and there are 20 girls living in a residential home. So it means that they were taken away from their families for question of like abandonment, neglect, or abuse, and they live in those residential homes. But they still go to school and they receive all all the things that they need there. Then we work with another residential home that is like more. It's smaller. It's the size of a house, and they have. I think it's like now it's 8 children living there, girls and boys, but younger, from age 2 to 7. They dedicate their work more into the reconstruction process of the children, so that they can get adopted by families and international families as well. So the work is slightly different because it's they're like fewer children and they're younger, but there's still like a lot of needs to be covered. And then we work with a community center called Domingo Savio, and we intervene there into like a very like structured organization, which is great. It's an after school club, if you want, and the volunteers assist the teachers there, and they do lots of different workshops. There are also boys and girls all together, and there are many of them. It's like, yeah, almost 40 children. Age ranging from I think 6 to 18. And finally, we're working with a school as well called Anakena, and they work only with children with special needs, in particular autism and physical and mental health issues. The same there. The volunteers assist the teachers in one classroom with like giving individual like attention and playing at recess. Yeah.
Great.
And they're all located in like the south of Santiago. The majority of them, because that's where there are like more like vulnerable. It's a more
vulnerable communities. Yeah, great.
Yes. But speaking of like what the volunteers do again with the children in those placements, I'm going to ask a question to Sandra. Sandra, si puedes como hablar más de los talleres que tú hiciste con los niños y un poco los programas de Global que tenías la oportunidad de implementar durante tu tiempo.
Pues básicamente, como dijimos, las chicas que trabajamos en Refugio de Misericordia son las chicas mayores, porque son de mayor edad y tienen una situación especial de ser mamás y estar a cargo de su guagua o de su bebé. En el caso de estas chicas, tenemos mucho interés en llevarle a ellas talleres o cosas nuevas para aprender, que de alguna manera aportaran a su crecimiento personal y que ellas pudieran ser más independientes, y que esas oportunidades que teníamos los voluntarios de enseñarles algo fueran talleres que fueran funcionales para que ellas eventualmente pudieran lanzarse posteriormente a cumplir su tiempo allí en el hogar o tener una nueva oportunidad, pudieran servirle como algo de cocina, costura, quizá alguna manualidad que pudiera convertirse quizás en una artesanía que eventualmente pudieran ayudar, como fue el caso de la encuadernación. En mi caso yo tuve la oportunidad de hacer unos talleres de encuadernación que yo aprendí en encuadernación en Chile y quise compartir con ella esos conocimientos, y nos fue excelentemente bien, y con mis compañeras podíamos hacer un team, podíamos hacer un equipo de trabajo donde nos podíamos distribuir el taller para que ellas pudieran estar en el taller mientras atendíamos a los bebés y ellas pudieran aprender. En mi caso particular, mi sección incluyó el tiempo de verano. Ellas no estaban yendo al colegio y el tiempo libre es más tiempo. Así que hicimos lo posible por tener al menos de 4 días que asistíamos, 3 o 4 días teníamos talleres que a veces eran cortos o a veces duraban más de un día. Pero pudimos tener la oportunidad de hacer muchas cosas desde bordado, costura, cocina, y todo con material desechable a un bajo costo, que realmente pues la experiencia fue muy, muy enriquecedora, y todavía yo recibo notitas de las chicas que me escriben diciéndome: tía, aprendí esto otro, y nos gustó mucho, y siempre les digo que aprendimos juntas. Yo no te enseñé nada nuevo, yo aprendí contigo algo nuevo y lo compartimos. Así es que en el caso de los voluntarios, aportan nuevas experiencias a todos los chicos, que tenemos el propósito de que esa experiencia les sirva a ellos de provecho para su vida y para su vida práctica.
Sí.
Great. Kind of just talking a little bit about the workshops, Sandra shared a little bit with us about how with the older girls that she worked with, she had the opportunity to really do a lot of workshops and different opportunities with the girls that were really kind of functional in their approach and very very related to learning some important skills, life skills, and different things like that, even if they were creative and craft and things like that. A lot of the times they worked on those types of activities in the workshops, having a lot to do with maybe working on doing things in the kitchen, different sewing projects. I know that one really cool project that Sandra did was creating like laundry bags.
Oh, yes.
With a lot of like design and
Mm-hmm.
detail that was really nice to help build a relationship too between the mother and the new baby, which was a nice workshop as well. And then even some of the different opportunities that Sandra had to develop some of her own interests here in Santiago with book binding and book creation workshop that she learned here. She was able then to share that with the girls at Refugio as well, and with all of us here as well, which was really exciting to be part of that as a small volunteer community that we have in Santiago. And I think really one of the most important things that Sandra just mentioned was that the volunteers really give the children and youth that we work with the opportunity to learn new things and have new experiences with people from all over the world, but also in Sandra's case, with something that she also learned while she was in Chile as well. So really giving the kids the opportunity to be supported and learn new skills, new ideas, and really just have someone there to talk with, I think was a really important part of what Sandra just talked about.
Yeah. No, I have to add something that is like for Sandra's class in last January. There were many volunteers who had the opportunity to learn new skills and share it with the children in the organization they work with. One of them, for example, was like she wanted to how do you say practice her drama skills. And she had the opportunity to direct or manage a little
a theater
group, a theater club with the girls at San Francisco. And we have an art program called Festival de Arte, and at that program, at that final event of it, she got to show to everyone the little play she created with the girls, and that's one example. Another example of how the volunteers can impact the children.
Definitely.
And their own skills.
Yeah, which is great. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more too, Clem, right now about the different programs that the volunteers have. So one thing that Sandra got to tell us a lot about was her opportunity to be able to do workshops about things that she enjoyed. Yeah. What else do the volunteers do in terms of programming with the kids?
Yes. So Sandra got to do lots of arty workshops because it was right in the middle of Festival de Arte. That is our art program. We run it twice a year during the academical year with the children, so the children have the opportunity to do whatever art they want to do with the volunteers. And at the end of it, we have Festival de Arte, which is an exhibition at a museum of everything that they've done with the volunteers, and a show at the end. So they can perform dancing, singing, and even playing. So and then we have lots of art prizes for them. So that's for art. And then we have a program that also Sandra got to implement with the children is our reading program called Vamos a Leer, where we encourage the children to read as much as they can, and using evaluation and objectives and fun activities to make them read and reach their objective, so that they can go to the event that is at the end of the program, and it's right in the middle of summer in February here, where we take the children to the park and we do we play games. They receive prizes, which are books, and we have some pool time in the afternoon. It's fun for the children and fun for the volunteers. We have another program that is like dedicated to health and security, mainly through sports. This is run the whole year long, and we go to a gym like once a month on a Saturday, where we teach the children about like one sport. It's always like a new one, and we invite special guests to teach the sport, and then we offer a very healthy snack, and we get to talk about like themes about security and health. Yeah, so this is like the whole academic year as well. And then the last event that we have, or program, sorry, it's so
English in Motion.
English in Motion. Yes, thank you, Sandra. English in Motion is all about English and teaching English in a very fun way. We play games in English, we sing in English, we dance and do like crazy things. We really want to encourage the children to learn the language, and it is also like a very good way of like making the volunteer interact with the children when their first language may be English. And then those photos that Josh is showing you are of this like event that we just had a couple of weeks ago called Extreme English Day, where the children get to play, but it's like more in a competition way. They have like different rounds where they have to answer like quiz questions. They have to just like show what they've learned through the program. So it was mainly about colors, clothes, family names, and numbers this time. And at the end, they got medals that made the children very happy. And that's all, the three. So Festival de Arte, Vamos a Leer, English in Motion, and Liga de Deportes.
Great. And maybe I think we should talk a little bit about living and working as a volunteer in Chile. I think that's something that probably a lot of people have questions about. Chile is kind of a really special country in Latin America. We love Chile, obviously us, because we're here. But it's like in a really unique position in Latin America in terms of where it's at. It's also very unique in that it's one of the countries with the most severe income inequality, which really has a big impact on children's rights and opportunity for children coming from more vulnerable backgrounds. What about living in Chile for the volunteers? Can you guys talk a little bit with us from your perspectives on maybe what it's like to live in Santiago, which is a capital city of 6 million? Was it easy to get around? Was working in the partner organizations and having to come to the office difficult for volunteers? All of these kind of questions maybe would be good to talk about.
Bueno, Sandra, ¿nos puedes contar un poco de tu experiencia como viniendo de Puerto Rico a Santiago? ¿Cuál era como un poco las cosas que te gustaron o no te gustaron de Santiago?
Bueno, Santiago es una ciudad compleja, pero es accesible. O sea, es una ciudad que no tiene nada diferente a cualquier otra ciudad, donde uno tiene que ir y atemperarse, ¿verdad?, a la dinámica de la ciudad. Es imprescindible que cualquier persona que vaya a vivir o a convivir en otro lugar lleve un presupuesto responsablemente organizado y sea disciplinado en ese aspecto. Entonces, llevar un presupuesto y también respetarlo y ser práctico. O sea, los voluntarios estamos allí para servir de modelo a los chicos, pero también propiamente tenemos que servir de modelo en todos nuestros aspectos personales. Y en el caso de nosotros, los voluntarios en Santiago, es básico que un voluntario tenga un presupuesto bien preparado y que lo pueda llevar a cabo. Santiago tiene buena transportación, se come muy bien. es muy accesible para el alojamiento. Y la realidad es que hay que ser práctico, si se puede usar una bicicleta, si se puede caminar, si se puede utilizar los medios de transportación, pero en realidad cualquier voluntario puede manejarse con un presupuesto organizado, que en mi caso estuvo básicamente entre los $700, y con eso yo pude cubrir sin ninguna necesidad y sin sufrir de ninguna necesidad para alojamiento, para comida, para transportación, y realmente tuve la oportunidad de disfrutar todas las actividades que quise participar y estudiar lo que quise, tomar mis talleres y todo. Claro, era muy juiciosa en todos mis aspectos, cocinaba mi comida, compraba mis alimentos, comía en mi casa, ¿ves? Y realmente pues pude hacerlo. Yo creo que si se usa juiciosamente y se trabaja de una manera responsable, tanto salimos bien los voluntarios que participamos como demostramos a otras personas que se puede vivir de una manera muy práctica usando y siendo juiciosos con nuestro presupuesto.
Claro.
Great. So Sandra thinks, and I agree, that Santiago is a big, complex city, but also very, very manageable, and that it's a city that is really easy to get around. She talked about how the public transportation is good. It's a good system. Housing is another easy to find and manageable situation. Sandra lived with a host family, but there are lots of other opportunities as well for volunteers to live with other volunteers or live in an apartment kind of shared housing situation with Chileans or people from other places. In terms of budgeting, Sandra talked a little bit about how it's really important to come with an idea in mind of your budget, and that if you do that and you're careful and working hard to make sure that you stick to that, that it's entirely possible. Mm-hmm. Santiago is a big city, and cost of living here has its challenges sometimes as well. Mm-hmm. But Sandra says that she was able to live in Santiago on a monthly budget of about $700. And that she was, even with that, able to do some of the different workshops and interesting kind of special personal things that she liked to do here on that budget as well. And so I think that's a really important thing for potential volunteers to know, that Santiago is a big city. There are a lot of opportunities. And that if you're careful and you think about managing your meals and sometimes cooking at home and working to plan your budget well, that's something that's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep in mind as well that we have different classes of volunteers, so that we build a very big and supporting community. We receive volunteers every 4 months, so in January, September, May and September, sorry, and the idea is that we get several volunteers all together coming from different countries and living the same experience. So it is very important that we gather here in the office every week, that we get in touch outside of the office, inside of the office. It's very interactive, and I'm talking about this because the way Sandra described her experience is also because we couldn't rely on each other. We can see each other, check on each other if everything is okay, and just discuss about issues that we're dealing with every day, working with these children. Sometimes they have some challenging behavior, and it's really important to be able to share all this experience and receive the support from other people from the community.
Yeah. And what about that? How does that work? VE, you said, brings volunteers in 3 groups every year. In September, coming up, is our next arrival volunteer group, and then in January and May. Why do the volunteers come in classes, and how does that work in terms of the length of stay, and what do they receive when they come as a volunteer with us?
Yes. So as you may already know, we require that the volunteers stay in a minimum of 4 months we would love that it would be like 6 months, because like the more the better. It is very important to take this into account, because the children we work with have suffered from like abandonment, neglect, and abuse from their own family. And we don't want to affect this like cycle and like be part of it. So we would like to create this consistency that we've created thanks to like the VE program. It means that the children themselves and the staff of those organizations, they're used to see the volunteers coming and going every 4 months. And it is always like with like celebration that they're like saying goodbye to the volunteers and receiving new volunteers. They know how it works, and they always ask like, when are the volunteers coming? Where are they from? It is like something that they know now. Now it is also very important that we have a class of like many volunteers coming, because as I said, for the use of like having a big community and a very like supportive one, and also being like able to run those trainings that we offer to the volunteers. When the volunteers arrive to Chile with a class, for example, this coming September, we're going to receive volunteers. They're coming at the same time, and they're starting with their orientation weeks, which are 2 initial training for them to start with, receiving knowledge from us and other professionals here in Chile. Chileans who work in the same environment, social workers, psychologists.
What do the sessions, the orientation sessions, cover? I know that there are a lot of different things that you talk about with the volunteers.
Yes, so we cover topics that Lissandra just like mentioned about like life in general, transport, housing, money, where to buy, where not to buy for their like daily products and groceries. We cover also like historical topics, because it's very important that the volunteers get to know the context in which they're going to intervene, and Chile has a big history, so we teach that, and then like an important like dimension of it is also to know and learn about working with children.
Yeah.
And so that's why the social workers and the psychologists and us are like bringing to the volunteers is like sharing about experiences and like teaching them some like tools that they need to be working with children with, maybe challenging behavior, but also just like dealing with like day-to-day work with children. It's not like that easy, and like we provide all this tools and skills and support for the volunteers to work.
Yeah, I think for me, as someone who's actually been really fortunate to have seen VE grow over the last 10 years as an organization, because I came to Chile 10 years ago working with another organization that was involved in education in Chile, and had the opportunity to really see even those first few years when the orientation sessions were beginning, and had the opportunity to participate in some of those as well as kind of a teacher trainer. I think for me that's the most fun part of orientation for me, is where I get to talk with people about education. That's partly because it's one of my great passions, but that I think we really make sure that we provide the volunteers with the opportunity to learn about not only the social work side or the kind of the historical side of the situations that the kids we work with have been through, but that we also really work to try and provide them with a lot of skills that will make them more successful volunteers. I think that that's one thing that we are really proud of at VE, is having really created a strong training program for our community. Maybe Sandra, I don't know if you have any other ideas or things to add about orientation. ¿Qué te pareció a ti la oportunidad de la capacitación inicial y también de las oportunidades continuas que teníamos durante el voluntariado en cuanto a tus apreciaciones como voluntaria.
Yo creo que las 2 semanas de inicio que inicia el voluntariado son básicas. Realmente BE es una organización muy estructurada y entiendo que la primera parte del voluntariado era enfrentarnos entonces a conocer la institución propiamente, la organización propiamente y sus vínculos, su misión, su visión, su propósito, todos los valores que están envueltos. Bastante tiempo que nos dieron mucho trabajo para que aprendiéramos la misión y la visión. Así es que yo creo que esas 2 semanas para el voluntario son básicos porque son en la transición entre la vida que uno lleva regularmente con la vida que va a enfrentar durante los próximos 4 meses mínimo en un lugar donde no es su casa, donde no es su área conocida. Así es que la orientación y la capacitación incluye todos los aspectos que tienen que ver con el trabajo de BE, con la vida en Chile, con el comportamiento de los voluntarios dentro de la organización y cómo compartir con la cultura chilena, cómo llegar a nuestros niños y cómo lograr que ellos aprendan y se diviertan y ser modelos y presentar los valores que BE pretende llevar a esa población. La realidad que la capacitación nos llevó a ver la realidad chilena, a conocer la cultura chilena, a hacer un bonding como grupo, ¿verdad? A organizar unas reglas, a ser disciplinado, y realmente el voluntario tiene que estar preparado esas 2 semanas para poder enfrentar el trabajo que va a hacer en cada una de las organizaciones colaboradoras. Es básico.
Gracias.
Great. So just really emphasizing the importance of that initial training opportunity. Sandra mentioned that it was very structured and provided good opportunities to learn about a whole wide variety of topics, a number of really important aspects to the volunteer experience, ranging from kind of what it is, as we talked a little bit about before, living in Chile, all of the different questions that may come up for someone from another country or another background that is moving to a new place. And then in addition to that, really focusing in the orientation and training on what it is the volunteers need to be able to do in the partner organizations where they're placed. And then also a lot of the focus on the different cultural aspect of what it is to work with Chilean children and what makes them happy and excited and what they like to play, and all of these different kind of cultural questions as well are something that we do spend time on. I think for Sandra, as she mentioned, the kind of structure and these initial 2 weeks of training were a really, really important part of her experience because they set the basic groundwork that she, and the training that she needed to be able to be successful living in Chile, working in a different country as a volunteer, and then really learning about the situation that the kids that we work with have experienced and what they need. Mm-hmm. Great. I think that maybe we should answer a question that's come up about applying and what the process is of becoming a VE volunteer. So as you mentioned before, Clem, we have volunteer groups that come in September, in May, and in January. Mm-hmm. So there are three times that volunteers can come. The minimum amount of time is 4 months. How does someone go about the application process, and what does that look like?
Yes, so we're now still recruiting for a September class, and we've postponed our deadline, so you have time to apply for the September class. It is really easy. You have to go on our webpage and look for the Apply Now section. Once you're on the Apply Now, you'll see all the indications are there. You can find them both in Spanish and English, and we require that you fill it up entirely. we don't accept like any application that are like not complete. So please like read carefully about the process and like everything that you need to apply. You also may have to you have to attach some documents such as your CV and your recommendation letter. You're also asked to answer essay questions. So please also like read carefully and like take the time to think before you answer those questions. It is very important because it is for you the time to just like make sure you're like this is something that you want to do, and we read them like carefully to see if like you are like the volunteer that we need, that we look for. It is quite simple, but if you have any questions, you can like always like contact us, and we'll be happy to help you through the process. And then it is quite quick, because what you do is like you send your application online, and then we'll review it, and if it's like good and it's for a potential candidate, then like we will invite you to 2 interviews. The first one is with our program coordinator, and it's a short one, asking just like simple question about like if you know that like you won't receive any salary working with us, or like can you work with children with like challenging behavior, etc. And then finally it will be like an hour-long interview with me, with like all sorts of like questions. It's just like to get to know you better, and see if we can like make it happen. But it's a very like quick process, but still like very thorough.
Great. And if someone wanted to apply for September, that would still be a possibility. You mentioned that the deadline has been pushed back.
Yes.
How long can people still apply for September?
You still have like a couple of weeks, so it is you have a lot of time to apply. And if we like, as soon as we receive your application, we'll like treat it, process it, and you'll hear from us like very quickly. So please apply as soon as possible, and we'll be happy to receive your application.
Great. I don't know if there are any other questions that you feel like maybe would be good for people who are thinking about volunteering with us, that they might like the answers to. I think one thing that's really important to always think about is fees. Mm-hmm. Are volunteers required to pay an application fee or a program fee? How much outside of the cost of living expenses would they need to pay to VE?
Sure. So VE is a no-fee program, so we don't ask you for any economic like funds, mm-hmm. resources. VE is like, a volunteer is a resource for VE, so we have this like very responsible way of like managing our resources. That is like human resources and financial resources. As Sandra just correctly said, here in Santiago the cost of living is not high. It is becoming high, but like you can live with a budget. Like it is very important that you budgetize. Mm-hmm. But you have to consider that as like you will have to pay for your own accommodation and for your own expenses during the 4 months, the minimum amount of time that you are required to stay with us. Yes, and then like you'll be asked also to help and contribute to the fundraising campaign that we always run throughout the year. Volunteers are like a great way of like just working all together as a team and making like fundraising something that can be fun and something that can be also challenging. But like we are a supportive team, and we never like ask the volunteers to fundraise by themselves without any help. So I think that you may have like come across our fundraising explanation on the website. And again, if you have any questions about that, like we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Yes.
Great, and I think that's a really important thing for everybody to know about as well is, and there's plenty of information on our website to learn more about that, but that VE does not charge volunteers a fee to apply or to participate in our programs, because we do believe that our volunteers are already making a very significant sacrifice by coming for a minimum of 4 months and having to fund that time. But as an organization that's really small, we do need to cover the basic costs of having a small team here to receive the volunteers, to provide support and training to the groups that we have, and then also to make sure that we're here to provide emergency support for volunteers as well during their time. And so that fundraising piece is really important for us, but as you mentioned, we are all working really closely together on that, and even have created a system of fundraising incentives for people to cover some of their own costs if they do have a successful fundraising campaign. So you can even get some of the rent covered directly through VE through some of your fundraising as well. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have a lot of different resources on the webpage. And fundraising in many ways can be a lot of fun. I know that lately we've had a lot of success with people who have created some videos or done different kind of challenges in sports and running marathons or half marathons and things like that as well. So there are lots of different opportunities for that as well.
Yes.
I think we're getting close to our time. It looks like we don't have any other pending questions, and I think we've talked about a lot of the big issues that people may come across as they're thinking about coming to a volunteer program in South America, and in Chile in particular. Maybe we should see if Sandra, I don't know if you have any other final words of wisdom, anything else that you'd like to share about your experience in terms of what might be good for people who are interested in volunteering with us to know about. ¿Hay cosas que quieres decir cerrando, Sandra, en cuanto a la experiencia y qué más quieres dejar a futuros voluntarios para dejarles claro algo, o sea, en esos momentos de cierre de esta conversación?
No puedo terminar esta conversación sin decirle que la oportunidad de voluntariado en VE Global es única. Una oportunidad que es totalmente accesible, que es un tiempo mínimo que es muy razonable, un espacio de trabajo estructurado, una experiencia de 10 años que ha venido trayendo muchísimas oportunidades a 450 y más voluntarios en esta oportunidad. Si la gente quiere realmente cambiar su vida, aprender nuevas cosas, desarrollarse como persona y en ese proceso impactar a una población en riesgo social que tanto lo necesita. En Chile hay mucha necesidad de ayuda para los niños y para los jóvenes en riesgo social. Eso entonces no se puede esconder, hay una necesidad bien grande, y si alguien realmente quiere valorar las cosas importantes de la vida, una experiencia como voluntario en VE Global es única para un crecimiento personal y una aportación que no tiene precio. Hay miles y miles de niños en riesgo social y de jóvenes también, pero con impactar una población identificada, un niño, un joven, un adolescente con una experiencia positiva, es suficiente para que ese niño el resto de la vida recuerde esa oportunidad de ese adulto que vino a servirle de modelo. Así es que yo invito a voluntarios de cualquier edad, desde jóvenes hasta los mayores, personas que ya hemos aportado en la parte productiva, que también tenemos una aportación grande también, y la experiencia realmente es incomparable, y uno llega a Chile siendo de una manera y sale totalmente diferente. Así es que yo invito a que las personas hagan el intento, se orienten tomen se den la oportunidad y realmente aporten. Yo sé que es una empresa que jamás en la vida se van a arrepentir. Así es que yo agradezco a B Global la oportunidad y estoy 100% colaborando, aunque estoy en mi casa, trabajando con B Global de una manera bien directa y tan pronto tenga la oportunidad y la plata, regreso a Chile.
Gracias, gracias Sandra. Aprendimos harto de ti también, te extrañamos mucho.
Se les quiere mucho, mucho, mucho. Muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad y mucho éxito y estamos a la orden.
Perfect. So just kind of wrapping up some of the things that Sandra said to translate them a little bit into English for everyone. For Sandra, the experience with VE was a very unique experience, very important for her, I think, as well, and the things that she mentioned that she learned. But just for sharing with people who are thinking about the experience, for Sandra, it's really important to remind everyone that the time frame of a 4-month commitment is very manageable, and that to come with an organization like VE that has 10 years of experience in Chile working with volunteers, over 450 volunteers have come through in the last 10 years to work in our programs of all ages as well. And I think that's something that's really, really exciting about the way that we work as an organization, is that we're a very diverse community as well in terms of our volunteers, and the impact that Sandra mentioned that has on the kids that we work with as well is so important. That having the opportunity, she said there are so many children and youth around the world that are living in vulnerable situations, but to really be able to have a very direct, meaningful impact is something that is a really important part of our mission as an organization here in Santiago, and that as a volunteer, Sandra felt that she really had that opportunity to work very, very directly, very, very closely, in a very meaningful way with the children and youth that we work with. So, and as Clem mentioned as well, I think so important. We've learned so much from you as well, Sandra. So thank you very much for all of that. And Sandra wants to come back, she said. So hopefully as soon as she can say that, we will open the doors to the office and scream with joy and happiness. And I'm sure that everyone at Refugio would be delighted to see you again sometime soon. So we'll be waiting for you as well.
Yeah.
Great. So I don't know, Clem, if you have any final words about the opportunities or people being involved and sending in their applications, but
yeah, apply now. This is like the moment now to apply for the September class, but also you're welcome to apply for the January and May from next year class. Yes, thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you so much, Josh, for leading up this session. I hope that people got the information that they wanted, but we're still very connected to our email account. So please do write us to info@ve global.org or even the other one.
Yeah, people can definitely get in touch with us at our email account, which is info@ve-global.org. Or if you have specific questions about applying, you could also reach right out to our apply@ve-global.org account. And we're also very happy to be in touch on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of the social media platforms, including Instagram, which we have a new account on Instagram as well. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions, and we would love to be in touch, set up a more personal conversation over the phone or over a Google Hangout or chat. And thank you, Clem, for sharing so much information with us now about the volunteer program. And we hope to see a lot of applications coming in soon with all of your new volunteer excitement. So
Yes.
thank you all very much for joining us for this first very successful, I have to say, Google Hangout, and we hope there will be more to come in the future. Looking forward to being in touch.
Ciao.
Ciao, thank you.
Bye.